Secretary General Akelo Misori said after the negotiations with the Commission, they came to an agreement on how their grievances will be addressed. However, the Commission CEO Nancy Macharia said medical covers and promotion of teachers, among other grievances, have already been addressed. Here is Kasichana Marsha with that particular update from what transpired yesterday.
In compliance with the court order which was instituted and which is coming up on 5th, that is Thursday, from the union side, we suspend the strike and ask all our teachers to go back to class pending the speedy resolutions of these matters as already agreed upon between us and the Commission.
Medical scheme funding has been restored and teachers can now access both private and private hospitals under the scheme. Transition to CBC, the government has provided resources for retooling of JSS teachers. Promotion of teachers, we are saying the TSC has already promoted 51,202 teachers under the competitive promotions, and the Commission shall continue promoting teachers as and when budgetary allocations are availed by Parliament. Commencement of the new round of CBA this will commence once KUPPET submits their memorandum of demands. Parties have also agreed that other pending issues will be resolved through bilateral negotiations, as is the practice.
So pupils and students who had been sent home are expected to be heading back to their learning institutions. And while that is underway, we also have a report where lecturers at the Technical University of Kenya have downed their tools, pressing for the implementation of the 2017-2021 collective bargaining agreement. We're going to be keeping tabs on that, and it seems it's a season of industrial action where the Union of Kenya Civil Servants has moved to court to challenge the decision by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission to freeze their salary increment, arguing it violates their rights. In a petition filed at the High Court, the union said the move amounts to an infringement on the fundamental rights of the civil servants and is a direct contravention of an existing collective bargaining approach signed by the union and the government regarding salary increments for its members. Earlier, the union had issued a strike notice for later this month if the government failed to honor the second phase of the CBA, which was to be implemented in July.
Their salary increment, which is inclusive of house allowance, must be paid today and must be backdated to 1st of July 2024. If our second phase of salary bargain or CBA is not implemented by this month, all civil servants in the Republic of Kenya, as has been resolved today in the Delegates Conference, will down their tools. Yeah.
And that's a developing story we're going to be following up on. Now, President William Ruto is among African leaders who have arrived in Beijing, China, for the highly anticipated Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, seeking to deepen ties between the world's second-largest economy and the resource-rich continent. The leaders are looking to secure new deals and investment amid heightened global competition for African resources and influence.
The Forum on China-Africa Cooperation (FORAC), set to begin on Wednesday, will be China's largest diplomatic gathering since the COVID-19 pandemic, featuring African leaders, including South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu, and Kenya's William Ruto. Over the past decade, China has poured billions of dollars into African infrastructure projects, from railways to hydroelectric plants, in exchange for access to the continent's abundant natural resources. While these investments have spurred development, they have also ignited controversy of the rising debt burdens on many African nations. African countries are eager to tap into China's economic power to fuel their growth, yet the forum comes at a time when Beijing is becoming more cautious about extending large-scale loans due to its own economic slowdown. This shift making the forum a key opportunity for African leaders to negotiate more favorable terms and address concerns over mounting debt. China remains Africa's largest trading partner, with bilateral trade reaching $168 billion in the first half of 2024. However, China has been resistant to offering substantial debt relief, even as some African nations, such as Kenya, struggle to meet their repayment obligations. Kenya's President William Ruto is expected to address these challenges at the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, with analysts predicting that he will push for more favorable loan terms from China to alleviate the financial pressure on the country. Beyond economic concerns, the forum is also expected to address the growing geopolitical tensions that could shape Africa's future. With the United States and China increasingly at odds over issues ranging from trade to Taiwan, African nations find themselves caught in the crossfire.
So what are the outcomes for Africa and in particular Kenya after this particular summit? We'll be looking towards getting to know exactly what then it means for this populace. Now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission now wants Parliament to provide timelines for courts to dispense with cases challenging the impeachment of county governors. Appearing before the Senate Legal Affairs Committee over the county government's state officers' removal from office procedure bill, the electoral agency proposed the courts be given at most 6 months to dispense with impeachment motions. The Council of Governors, however, wants impeachment motions only to be introduced 2 years after governors assume office.
A fortnight ago, the Senate upheld the impeachment of Meru County Governor Kawira Mwangaza, a decision that was later stayed by the High Court, awaiting determination. The Senate is now considering the county government's state officers' removal from office procedure bill, which will provide timelines for courts to dispense with cases challenging the impeachment of county governors. Submitting before the Senate Legal Affairs Committee, IEBC proposed the courts be given at most 6 months to dispense with the impeachment motions.
When it comes to impeachment and dispute resolution, timelines, there ought to be an end in litigation. What we might want to do or consider is to provide a timeline for which the courts have to hear an impeachment dispute, because it's not in law. It's not in the County Governments Act. It's not in the Elections Act. It's nowhere.
I think this is a welcomed proposal which we must consider, so that if it is an impeachment dispute that has been taken to court, whether to challenge the decision of the County Assembly or the Senate, then it must be resolved within certain timelines.
The bill, sponsored by Kiambu Senator Karongo Thangwa, seeks to protect governors from being impeached within 6 months after assumption of office. The Council of Governors, however, wants impeachment motions only to be introduced 2 years after governors assume office to ensure stability in devolved units, a proposal that IEBC endorsed.
We need to tie the timelines, because if a member of parliament and a county assembly are being recalled within a particular time, then maybe there's a reason why the ones for governor and the president have this timeline of 6 months.
The council also proposed 1 year gap from the previous impeachment to allow the governors to correct shortcomings raised during the previous impeachment.
Former Samburu Governor Moses Lenonkulal and businessman Hezbon Dadi appealed their jail term and have been released on a bond of 10 million shillings each. Lenonkulal, in his appeal, told Kibra's trial judge that Diana Kavedza, that he suffers from a condition called preeclampsia and is a high risk that being confined to jail could trigger rapid health deterioration and a life-threatening condition. However, the judge unmerited the health claims, saying prisons are equipped with health facilities to see that the former governor is medically cared for. Details are in the Scales of Justice segment.
The duo were found guilty of graft by receiving 84 million shillings from the county government of Samburu and abuse of office, among other offences. On Thursday last week, were ordered to pay a mandatory fine of 84 million shillings each. Milimani's trial magistrate Thomas Nzioki also directed them to pay another 2 million shillings or serve 8 years in prison. Dissatisfied by the judgment, the duo went to Kibera Cycle to seek refuge. Lenol Kulal cited he suffers from preeclampsia, which is a repeated bout of hypertension, while Ndavi said he suffers from type 2 diabetes and has been on treatment since 2023. They told the judge that their condition will go grave if confined in prison. The judge has directed the deputy registrar to ensure the original lower court file and certified recording of the proceedings are availed at Milimani's anti-corruption and economic crimes before October 31st, when the duty judge will hear the appeal. And the hearing of a case of robbery with violence where 75 million shillings was stolen did not kick off after the two witnesses said to testify informed the court they had emergencies to attend to. The 10 accused persons in the case are accused of robbing G4 staff at gunpoint in 2019. Chief Magistrate Lucas Onyina has directed the hearing to continue on 17th of next month. Elsewhere, a truck driver has been charged with stealing 560 bags of urea fertilizer on transit from Mombasa to the Kenya National Cereals and Produce Board. Appearing before Chief Magistrate Lucas Onyina, the accused Benson Omondi Bonyo pleaded not guilty to stealing nitrogen fertilizer valued at 2.2 million shillings.
The accused is granted bond of Kenya shillings 800,000 with one the same amount. The case is allocated to court number 8.
Ruth Wamboi for Good Morning Kenya.
Still on matters justice, Kenyan Kevin Kang'ethe, who is accused of killing his girlfriend Margaret Mbito in the United States of America, is set to face a charge of murder yesterday in an American court following his extradition on Sunday. Confirming the extradition, Director of Public Prosecutions Renson Ingonga stated Kenya's commitment and support to the USA as it proceeds with that particular matter.
It may be a sign of justice to Margaret Mbitu's family, as the suspect accused of killing their daughter is said to be arraigned at the Suffolk Superior Court in Pemberton Square in Boston on Tuesday. In a statement, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Renson Ingonga, reiterated his commitment to accord the USA the necessary support and in particular the prosecution team as they proceed with the next phase of the case. He also pledged support and prayers to the family of Margaret Mbitu. The DPP had assured the FBI Director Christopher Wray during talks in Nairobi in June this year that his office would ensure justice involving the case is done in an expeditious manner. Kevin Kang'ethe flew to Kenya in 2023 after allegedly killing his girlfriend Margaret Mbitu and was on the run until he was arrested by Kenyan authorities and arraigned before Chief Magistrate Lucas Onyina, who subsequently ruled that he be extradited.
We'll be keeping tabs on that. It's quite has been the debate there in regard to how will Kenya handle that matter, and that was decided when Kang'ethe, the suspect there in the murder of his girlfriend Margaret Mbitu, was extradited to the United States of America, where he's going to be facing the full force of the law as they prosecute on the matter. Now that takes us to business, where the Food and Agriculture Organization has rolled out a program that involves recycling farm waste to make animal feed organic fertilizer, and biodegradable packaging materials. The initiative targets to reduce greenhouse emissions in the agriculture value chain, while at the same time increasing income for farmers, as Alan Alco narrates.
The Food and Agriculture Organization FAO indicates that 31% of greenhouse gas emissions stem from food systems, right from cultivation to consumption. To help reduce carbon emissions, development partners have devised ways of enticing farmers to embrace sustainable farming practices.
Used to come out as waste from the banana is now being used for production in other commodities, other handcrafts. So it's no longer a waste that can be thrown away.
In the program, farmers are being trained to use tomatoes that would otherwise go to waste to make ketchup, bananas or orange peels to make animal feeds, rice husks to make compost or organic fertilizer, pineapple crowns to make biodegradable packaging materials, or other food waste to produce a bioenergy. The 193 million shillings initiative, which is also being supported by the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, and International Organization for Migration, IOM, is promoting a circular economy in agribusiness by encouraging farmers to use food waste to produce new products.
The farmer produces more. What's the intake? We create further businesses, because in linear economy, you only have that many jobs. But once you start circulating the jobs, then circulating the value chain, you create more jobs.
The initiative is rooting for alternative methods of farming, such as regenerative farming and climate-smart agriculture, to boost yields and income while reducing emissions for a viable future for the planet.
The tea subsector is set to undergo a raft of policy changes that seek to reduce volumes of unsold tea at the auction. Tea Board of Kenya Chief Executive Officer Willy Mutai says plans to allow direct sales and set the minimum quality standard are at an advanced stage in a bid to increase tea exports.
Over 100 million kilos of tea from the Kenya Tea Development Agency affiliated factories remains unsold at the Mombasa tea auction. The agency has been struggling to attract buyers due to poor quality of the green leaf and the setting of minimum price.
Machinery plucking also compromises the issue of quality. We also urge our farmers also to exercise care when plucking with machinery. Hand picking mostly is the one that gives the best quality, and then we urge our farmers also to look at that. And there also the issue of handling.
To increase shipments of Kenya tea, the government is contemplating allowing KTD-affiliated factories start direct sales to diversify Kenyan markets.
Production from the small scale subsector based on what they are paying on partners, and you run on the calendar year for the government, running the GDP, we are doing well. So far we are at 22% in terms of the production and the value. So meaning what we did last year, we are up by 18 billion. Meaning with the efforts that we are still having with them, we are likely to hit around 211 billion in GDP.
Plans are also underway to set and enforce the minimum quality standard to ensure the Kenyan tea competes with green leaf from the neighboring countries and fetch more at the auction.
Tea hawking, they affect quality mainly because they are umpires who don't mind about the quality they buy from our farmers. But since there has been a lot of economic hardship to our farmers, so sometimes they think of earning something for hand to mouth. So if they don't get something that is motivating, sometimes they may pluck and sell to any buyer who can give him something that specific day.
To increase sales through value addition, KTD's subsidiary Ketepa is set to undergo a 1 billion shillings modernization venture. The government has also been keen on increasing tea value addition from the current 5% to 20% in the next 3 years.
Nut processors are calling on the government to impose a ban on the export of unprocessed macadamia on concerns that importers are outcompeting them on the price for the Kenyan produce. The processors are concerned that stiff competition for unprocessed macadamia nuts could see most of them closing shop due to inadequate supplies that will impact jobs and ultimately the economy.
Kenya in 2009 banned the export of unprocessed macadamia nuts to allow local processors access larger quantities of the raw material, which in turn will create jobs in this labor-intensive sector. However, this didn't offer farmers many options and contributed to low farm gate prices. This was addressed last year through the lifting of the ban on the export of unprocessed macadamia nuts, which has offered farmers more market options.
The exports of raw and processed macadamia nuts has resulted to the new nut and shell export companies using significant amounts of wood in their dryers, which is not sustainable for the environment. Another major effect of the direct export of unprocessed macadamia nuts to China is that key buyers and large retailers from US and Europe are taking flight. They're leaving the country, they're leaving their purchases from the country, from Kenya.
They say in 2009, there were 3 other key macadamia producing countries, namely Australia, South Africa, and the United States. Kenya was supplying about 20% of the produce to the global market.
What is happening is that the foreign traders majorly work with brokers who take advantage of the farmer and buy the macadamia nuts from the farmer at a very low price. Unlike for us, the processors, who have set up our collection centers and collection networks close to the farmer.
So before the lifting of the ban, China has been buying in-shell from South Africa, mainly Australia as well. South Africa, Australia grows grafted nuts, only 100%. South Africa has become wiser. They have now blocked the sales of nut and shell.
They fear that stiff competition from importers could see local processors closing shop due to inadequate supply of raw materials. Alanauko, Prime Edition.
Now, landowners affected by construction of the Dongo Kundu Special Economic Zone will receive their compensation within a month. The Kenya Ports Authority has begun compensating the 1,648 project-affected persons who will be resettled on a 430-acre piece of land. Investments Cabinet Secretary Salim Vuria says 97 investors have so far expressed interest in settling up the 3,000-acre of Dongo Kundu Special Economic Zone.
And in the next 1 month, all the issues of compensation will have been concluded. And this compensation is going to take place in 2 fronts. One front is that 1,648 project-affected persons will be allocated some land, and then they will also be given support to develop their new areas. This new land where compensation will happen is 430 acres, and therefore Kenya Ports Authority will be providing leadership to make sure that the process of compensation, which began last week, is going to be concluded. And that conclusion means also dealing with some of the small grievances that people are raising. Right now, we have received 97 investors who want to be licensed to set up camp in the special economic zone, and that is why the compensation program has to be concluded so that the horizontal investments can begin, and then we can license, investors to move to the ground.
To sports now, the national soccer team Harambee Stars left the country yesterday ahead of their 2025 Africa Cup of Nations qualifying match against Zimbabwe this Friday at the Mandela National Stadium in Uganda. The again Firat Chargers will then face Namibia on Tuesday next week in their second qualifying match in South Africa. Both matches will be televised live on KBC Channel 1.
Engine Firat's squad for the 2025 AFCON qualifying matches against Zimbabwe and Namibia, scheduled to be played on September 6th and 10th, is a blend of local talents and international players. Captain Mike Olunga, Jonah Hayunga, Eric Ouma, Joseph Okumu, and Richard Odanda are among the foreign-based players included in the squad and are expected to join the team in Uganda. Former Gor Mahia forward Benson Omala and Victor Omune also made the cut. The first match will be the encounter against Zimbabwe this Friday in Uganda, followed by the second match against Namibia on September 10th in South Africa. Kenya is pooled in Group J of the 2025 African Cup of Nations qualifiers alongside Cameroon, Namibia and Zimbabwe.